Hi, I'm Ashley from Divorce Lawyers for Men. Today I'm going to walk you through some of the documents you'll need to fill out in a divorce or custody case in Washington State. Let's get started. So the first document I have pulled up here is called the summons. It basically provides notice to the other party that a case has been started and that they have been named in that case. So just like all the other pleadings, you'll see at the top basic information about the case or the heading of the document. You'll fill this out the same for each of the documents you will file in your case. So if you are the petitioner, of course your name goes here, your spouse's name at the bottom. If you're filing the case, initially you won't have a case number, so this can be left blank until the clerk's office assigns you one. And county where you're filing goes up at the top. Depending on which kind of case you are filing, whether this is divorce or legal separation, will determine the box that you check here in section 1. I'm just going to assume that we're going over divorce today, so we will select to end your marriage in this portion here. The rest of this document is really just notice to the other party. So this is telling that person, section 2, you must respond to the summons within 20 days or 60 days if you're served outside of the state of Washington. So all this is really just for their benefit and information. More about their written response, where to find the response forms and other documents that could be related to your case, which could be helpful for you too. So WashingtonLawHelp.org and the clerk's office are two great and free resources for you. More notice to the other party. And then down here is where you will sign. If you're represented, your attorney will sign here. If not, go ahead and sign off, print or type name, and the date. The bottom is more information for the opposing party, name of the court where the case has been filed, address, and then if you are represented, again, your lawyer will fill out this bottom portion here. The second document that you will typically fill out and file when starting a divorce case is called the petition. So the heading will all stay the same across the board for all of the pleadings that you are filling out and filing. The petition is what we kind of like to call a wish list for your case. So it breaks down the different components of your case, assets, debts, parenting plan, if those all apply, and your specific requests for how those things are divided and eventually finalized. So this is essentially the first proposal that you are putting in front of the court and to your spouse as far as ending your marriage. Section 1 is information about where you reside, county and state, as well as where your spouse resides. Typically, this information will be the same, but sometimes it does differ. Section 2 is information, kind of a timeline of your marriage, when you were married, when you separated, if you've already separated, information like that can be listed here. Section 3, your request for a divorce, and then this section will ask you when you are requesting your marital community ended. So a few different options. It can be the date you're filing the petition, which is the first option here. It can be when one of you moved to a separate household. So you can kind of make your selection based on which applies to you best here. Section 4 talks about jurisdiction. This can get confusing. Typically, if both parties live in the same state and the same county, you're on the right track with filing. If you do have questions, though, before doing the initial legwork of all the paperwork and paying the filing fee, I would recommend speaking with an attorney just to make sure you have jurisdiction figured out beforehand. Section 5 is very straightforward. Is one of the spouses pregnant? Yes or no? If so, which of the spouses, petitioner or respondent? Section 6 will ask for any children of the marriage. So keep in mind this section only refers to children in common between you and your spouse. If you have children from another relationship or your spouse does, leave that information out for now. There is a section later on where you can list those children as well. So Section 6A asks about where the children have resided in the past 5 years. If none of these options apply to you, just select no. You can even delete this box here and move on to Section B. Section B asks if there are any other people with a legal right to spend time with the child. This could be something like maybe a third-party custody case involving the child, but some legal authority establishing that someone else has some sort of visitation established with either one or all of the children. Again, if this doesn't apply, hit no or select no here and move on to Section C. Section C is somewhat similar, just request that you list any other cases involving the children of the marriage here. So any other court cases, it could be in family law, criminal, juvenile dependency, anything involving the kids outside of your divorce will be listed here. Section 7, jurisdiction over the children, very similar to the previous section that asks about jurisdiction of the spouses. So if you do have questions on jurisdiction, it's best to speak with an attorney, but this section here will kind of walk you through how to outline that Washington does have jurisdiction if that is the case. If the children have lived in Washington their whole life in the same state and county, then you have jurisdiction handled here. Home state jurisdiction can be selected, and it will ask you to list the children's names here. Parenting plan. So Section 8 asks whether or not, again, you have children. Skip over it if you don't. If you are going to be filing a proposed parenting plan along with the initial documents, which we do recommend, you will list that in Section 2 here. So I asked the court to order a parenting plan for the children my spouse and I have together. I will file and serve my proposed parenting plan, either option 1 at the same time or later. So you're not really outlining in this section what you want that parenting plan to look like. There's a separate document completely dedicated to that. This is just letting the court know that you will be filing a proposal, kind of just a heads up for them. Same goes for child support. Are you asking for a court order through Superior Court with your divorce case? So you can select this option if that's the case. I asked the court to order my spouse to pay his or her proportionate share of, and then some extra selections here. Daycare, long-distance transportation, if that applies, education, post-secondary, if your kids are getting ready to go to college, that can be a big area of contention in divorce cases, and then any other expenses that you think are relevant. The other option too, it's not through Superior Court. Basically, it's treated like a separate administrative action through DCS. So if you're wanting DCS to handle child support completely, collect the payments, disperse them to you, you would check this box rather than the Superior Court option above here. And for this process, it's a completely different set of steps. So you would be contacting DCS directly, and you would be assigned a caseworker from there. Section 10 is what I mentioned earlier, so children from other relationships. If this applies to you or your spouse, you will list the names of the children here. Section 11, written agreements. So prenuptial agreements, a separation contract, or community property agreement. These aren't really common, but if they do apply to you, you will fill out this information below, outlining the specifics of the agreement. Real property, if you own a home together, land together, that sort of thing, you will fill out this information here, the address, tax parcel number, and then whether or not you should maintain the property or your spouse. Again, this is just a wish list, your initial proposal for what you would like that final distribution to look like. Personal property. Same thing here. It does get a little bit more specific, so we're not just listing clothing, things like that. This is more bigger ticket items, so your 401k plan, retirement, furniture, your bank accounts that are in your name, investment accounts, things like that is what you want to list here in the personal property section. Of course, if there's a specific possession that you really care about, that you're wanting to retain possession of, definitely list it here. There's nothing wrong with that, but make sure you're focusing on the bigger items definitely first. Section 14 goes for debts. So if you do own a home together, that mortgage, any loans that you have, credit cards, money owed, something that people tend to get confused with when it comes to debts is whose name they're in. And while that does matter to some degree, if the debt or asset was acquired during the marriage, essentially it's still on the table in the divorce. So to be safe, you still want to list that debt and the details of that debt along with all of your assets in all of your initial documents. Section 15 talks about spousal support. If you are requesting spousal support, then you will check this second box here saying that it is needed. If you're not making a request, then you would just select this box here. That doesn't mean your spouse cannot request spousal support, but that would be on them to provide and request in their own response. Section 16 talks about fees and costs. So just attorney fees, other professional fees. This could pertain to the filing of the case. Typically, filing fees are about $300. For Thurston County specifically, it's $314. So that can kind of be looped into the overall cost of the case and can be requested from your spouse in Section 16. Section 17, if a protection order is needed or requested, you'll fill out this information here. Sometimes there are separate cases already ongoing where a superior court has issued either a temporary or final protection order in a case. If that applies to you, then you would fill out the information here. Section 18, kind of a similar section here, asking if you are requesting or if there is already a restraining order in place. Name change, if you're requesting that your last name be changed after the divorce, you would fill out Section 19 here. Again, even if you're not requesting it for yourself, your spouse can do that on their own in their response. Section 20 is any other request if it has not already been covered in the prior sections. So anything else that may come to mind, you can list in Section 20 or speak with an attorney if you have questions on the types of items or requests that can be listed here. The bottom is just where you would sign off. So petitioner signs, print name, the date, and city and state where the document was signed. If you have an attorney, they will fill out this bottom portion here. Thank you for watching. I hope this video was helpful. For more information, visit our website at divorcelawyersformen.com.